What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to the Texas League Weekly Fantasy Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dwayne Devastator Morrow, along with my two co-hosts. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
Jared Cowan, aka the Commissioner, currently a little salty with his co-host who beat him in fantasy, but such is life.
I'm Rob Caldwell. I'm our manager of Math is King. I'm a little salty because I lost by 2 points, but at least I didn't lose to a co-host. So there's always that. And the Raiders lost, so that's a W for me any damn way. But anyway,
everybody's team on this podcast lost. Their favorite team lost this week. We're not going to talk about whose team lost to who or what lost
because we lost the Panthers and nobody else had.
Was it a loss? It's a yes or no question. Did your team win? It's a yes or no question.
Beat the Panthers
this week. Did your team win this week, sir?
No, sir, they did not.
Okay, then. So let us move on.
We won the first quarter. Does that count?
Only if you gambled on the first quarter.
By that motto, Kansas State won the first quarter against BYU. They didn't win that game either. Moving on.
Fair enough. Only team that won was my son's flag football team, so I got you.
But shout out to your son's flag football team for the dub. Jared, what's our kickoff this week?
Oh, now mind you, take this with a grain of salt. We're only 3 weeks into the season, but I understand that. So I'm not overreacting. I just want to know, looking at statistics, at least from our league, Patrick Mahomes, number 10 in points, number 11 in points per game at quarterback. Do you believe that Patrick Mahomes is moving away from the must-draft fantasy quarterback status that he had a few years ago?
I say no. I think it's too early to say that. However, with that being said, if they don't figure out how to get Kelsey back in this damn game, he's going to be hurting for a little bit. Now, especially with all the injuries they got going on over there. But no, I don't think he comes off of a must-draft.
I would also concur. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is still, like you said, you're talking about points and it's just week 3, right? Nobody knew that Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold was going to be in the positions that they're in. Hell, even Geno Smith is kind of balling out in Seattle right now from a fantasy standpoint. The Chiefs will go as Patrick Mahomes goes, and they're currently sitting at 3-0. None of the games have been – all the games have been close. Like, I believe all 3 games have been one-possession games or one, like – they've all 3 games have been one-possession games. So they're not blowing people out, but they're winning games. Now, as fantasy owners, you would probably like to see Mahomes do a little bit more, but he's got new weapons this year. What we'll see is the same thing we saw last year, which is that as the season goes on, and he gets more comfortable with those receivers and those weapons behind him that are new to him, he'll start finding new ways to get them the ball. And what will ultimately happen is everyone will forget about Travis Kelce because he's been so ineffective early this season. And around week 7 or 8, Kelsey's going to start getting back into that offense because he'll be wanting to get in shape for a playoff run. So, yeah. There's not many quarterbacks you're taking. If you take away the dual threat quarterbacks in the league, who of the traditional quarterbacks would you take before Patrick Mahomes? I mean, Joe Burrow, maybe. Aaron Rodgers, not.
Nah.
You would have taken Rodgers first. Dak Prescott.
Maybe at the beginning of the season, but I've been looking to try closer to the middle when he starts, Prescotting. And so.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So, like, Lamar, who else will go before? I mean, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, right? Hell, even Kyler Murray, since we're talking about dual.
I mean, Carter's pretty good, right? I wouldn't into him way, but the way he in the last few weeks, you would think he's right. Just by the way he's going out for like weeks, but I mean he's going to be right with like Justin Herbert. I love me some Herbert, but he's not somebody I'm drafting in the final. Let's just be. And so,
Right. So yeah, no, I think Mahomes still has his status as a top QB in fantasy for fantasy purposes, definitely. But that does lead me into my question of the week. Thank you for that, Jared, which is week 3. There were some breakout performances from fantasy players. Gentlemen, who would you like to highlight and spotlight for their week 3 fantasy performance? Dr. Dukes, who you got?
Juwan, this cat went four target, 2 kids in third and yard week 2. All right, so Juwan Jennings went from 4 targets and 2 catches and 37 yards in week 2 against the Vikings to 12 targets, 11 catches, 175 yards, and 3 touchdowns against the Rams. Okay, I get they're playing the Rams, but still, you basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 times the yards the previous week in one game. I'm like, if that's not a breakout, I don't know what the hell is. Because man, I mean, and he gets to play the Patriots this weekend. Was he gonna go for 200 next? I mean, I guess after progression he going, he went from 64 yards, 37 to 175. Let's give him 250. I don't know. I wish I had him, to be honest with you.
I guess it's like when you don't have George Kittle or Debo Samuel or Christian McCaffrey, it seems
And Brian,
like
you ain't catching nothing. You gotta
right.
go to
Well,
somebody.
I mean, obviously the plan for the Rams was we're going to double and triple Ayuk. So you would think at some point they would have tried to adjust strategy once Juwan started cooking, but I guess they were just okay with their strategy and their focus is just stopping Ayuk. In the end, it worked out for LA. So kudos to them. What about you, Jared?
I'm gonna go with Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
Anybody that has that kind of performance, week 1 he played my Bucks. We can't never stop a rookie quarterback see Sunday's game. Then he played the Giants. I'm like, the Giants aren't good. Let's find out if he's really gonna do something. I don't have a lot of faith in Cincinnati, but I'm like, their defense is solid. That man went 21 to 23. He had, he's like he was just talking about those mobile quarterbacks, those dual threats. That is him. He actually had his lowest rushing production of the year, but he still got in the end zone. 21 to 23 passing. The man, he's making some noise. And I'm gonna go watch him live on Sunday and see what he does against these Arizona Cardinals.
Indeed. That's what's up. All right. I have Malik Neighbors. So Malik Neighbors had his first multi-touchdown game after week 2, where we saw Marvin Harrison Jr. have a breakout game with 2 touchdown catches. Malik Neighbors' turn was this week. But even though he had, his first multi-touchdown game, Malik Neighbors is actually the leading scorer for wide receivers in fantasy through week 3 of the season. If you have a half PPR or a full PPR, the only player that has a lead on him in the standard is Juwan Jennings, and he leads him by 0.6 if you do fractional points. Otherwise, they're tied. Like if you don't do fractional points, they both are sitting at 45 in standard leagues. But if you do fractional points, Juwan has a 0.1 lead on him. So Malik Neighbors showing us that he was worth the pick. I mean, if you watched Hard Knocks, you saw that the Giants definitely were thinking about Jaden Daniels. The Giants GM's son was all in on Jaden Daniels as the pick. So that kid might have a future in the front office like his dad, because he was convinced Jaden that he didn't care about the looks. I think that the family wanted Drake May because he's a good looking kid. But the son was like, nah, Jaden Daniels. So yeah, but Malik Neighbors is who the Giants ended up picking, and he definitely looks like a worthy pick at that spot. Any quarterback any wide receiver that can produce like that with Danny Dimes throwing the ball to him, that's a potential for a special talent. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that kid progresses throughout the year. All right. So with that being said, let us jump right into reviewing the week 3 results from the Texas Fantasy League. So we're going to start with our high score of the week, which is a repeat from week 1. 2 boobs, 2 balls, 1 goal after being dethroned in week 2 as the high score. They are back as the hot scorer this week, and I believe we have another comment from them. Jared?
I actually did reach out to the owners of that team, and I was told that their performance this week speaks for itself. No other comment need be made. I'm like, you know what? You win it 2 out of 3 weeks, you might have a point. So I'll leave it at that.
So I'm a little bit salty because until the second game of Monday Night Football, I had a slight edge on them. Josh Allen went the F off, and then ended up losing on a extra point. I was still hoping for a stat correction, but seeing as it's Wednesday night, I think that score is going to win for the week. So we'll just take a look at that game real quick. Super close game. Heartbreaking loss for Super Mario Cristobal. There were only two teams that week in week 3 that outscored Super Mario Cristobal. And unfortunately, they faced one of those two teams. So tough loss for Super Mario Cristobal. And speaking of tough losses, Dr. Deuce, so close. And we were all in your corner this week.
I know.
Who failed you? We know who failed you.
Yeah.
So
if I had Johnson up there instead of Ayuk, I win.
Yeah.
Hey, woulda, shoulda, coulda.
If Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble, there's also if Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble, you win that game. So tough loss there. We had another heartbreaker that was pretty close. Not really close. Company Man and Hank with Hernandez. Man, both of their teams kind of came out flat. Both of them finished below 100, well below the projections. You can see Hanging with Hernandez still looking for that first win of the year. Unfortunately, Anthony Richardson, after a dazzling performance in week 1, just cannot find his rhythm on the field. Even though the Colts got the W, it was more on the back of Jonathan Taylor. So, yeah, tough loss.
Our score was his defense. Ooh.
Right. So both of their defenses scored 15. So
Mahomes got him 20. Gibbs got him 16. I mean, Najee got him 11. So it's like, that's your difference right there, those three.
Yeah. I mean, his running backs just decided like that. They did not show up at all. Like, who did he have on the bench?
No, he should try and make a trade with me. I got a few running backs that, I might be willing to part with depending on what he ain't got nobody I want, though.
Hey, there's always draft picks. We do have one more year left in this current iteration, I believe.
Fair point.
2 years. Okay, so this is okay. I couldn't remember. I knew it was at least one more year. So, hey, might be time to make a move. And then Muff Divers versus Acorn. So we had Acorn praying for a second 40-yard touchdown to Jamar Chase on Monday night, which unfortunately did not happen. So Muff Divers holding on and moving to 2-1. Good solid performances overall. Lamar Jackson as his keeper still looking good. Aaron Jones doing very good for Minnesota, and Minnesota's playing Green Bay this weekend. So I hope Aaron Jones doesn't try to do anything stupid like do a Lambeau leap, because you're no longer a Packer. And you know the rules about that. So, and then the last game. Now, week 1, when the other two co-hosts faced off, it was myself and Mr. Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell gave a very long speech about how Mr. Cowan and I were less than intelligent, how he couldn't believe that we were men of such low character asked to pick against him. And then last week during the picks, I found myself being on the end of, what did you say, Mr. Caldwell? I mean, I can always run back and review the tape. Basically, you said it was going to be Stairway to Evans, and I quote, and it won't be close.
I was right about the close part. I was just going to say, that's all.
You were 100% correct on it not being close. Now, shout out to my man Stairway to Evans. Always
Ultimately, I
fun.
was wrong. My bad. You know, it is what it is. I was just hating on you because you was a Raiders fan. That was kind of my emotions got involved, and it's hard to think a Raiders fan, man. But my bad.
I will say this. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, I appreciate them coming out and doing their thing. Uh, yeah, we Jared's team had a bad week. We know how it is in fantasy. It happens. How does Dallas put up 28 points? I mean, I'm sorry. How does Baltimore put up 28 points against Dallas and Mark Andrews scored 0? It ain't like Dalton Schultz tore it up.
Because the Dallas Cowboys run defense is Swiss cheese. How many points did they get? How many rushing yards did the Ravens have on Sunday?
Oh, a whole
On the
lot.
ground.
Derrick Henry had like $150 and 2 touchdowns himself. So,
Yes, he did.
and we knew that was coming. So
yeah.
We all said last week we expected a breakout performance from him. Like Derrick Henry was almost the player that I picked, but we called that so early last week, it was almost pointless to repeat it. Like we knew it was coming. So yeah. So yeah.
Sorry. It is okay. There is a rematch.
There is a rematch. So we will see each other again. And I personally would be hoping for the same results. So all right, so now here is where we stand as of week 3. So the picking myself gave me the edge in picks for this week, which now puts me in a tie with Dr. Deuce at 61% on the season. So yeah, it doesn't make me feel as good as being in the lead. At least I'm not behind. So there we go. So now let us jump right into our week 4 picks. Let's start with our currently winless Hanging with Hernandez versus Kirkwood. Jared, who you got in this one?
I gotta go with Kirkwood. I'm looking at Hanging with Hernandez, and I just don't see it. I'll put it like this. I'm not picking him to win, but if he somehow wins, I'm not going to be completely shocked. But I think Kirkwood has the better matchups this week. So I'm going to go with Kirkwood.
Okay. Dr. Deuce, you agree with that?
I actually agree. I think Kirkwood. My biggest concern when hanging with it, Rich against Pittsburgh fans. I think A Watt's going to delay and chase. So I just don't what we've done so he's not confident he's going to be able to much.
Yep. So we starting off this week with a unanimous agreement. I do like Kirkwood. I think the key this week is going to be in these first 3 players we have listed. Amari Cooper in Vegas back against the team that drafted him for the first time since he left the Raiders. He's back in, he's facing off against his former team. Mike Evans after a bad week last week. Mike Evans is the 1,000 yards per year machine, so I expect a bounce back performance for him. And Jalen Hurts after 2 back-to-back performances that were less than stellar, I expect him to have a good fantasy showing. Even though he only scored 10 points last week, no touchdown passes because Saquon Barkley did all the hard work of getting the ball into the end zone. Jalen Hurts had 300 yards through the air last week, so definitely throwing the ball. All right. Company man Mathis King, Jared, who do you like in this one?
I'm going to go with Mathis King because I think Baker Mayfield bounces back after last week debacle. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson. I believe IU takes advantage of a weak New England team. I'm looking at the other side, and I'm like, I don't really like these matchups a whole lot. I do like Najee Harris because Indianapolis defense ain't been real great. Justin Waddle, don't trust him. Who the hell's the quarterback?
I'm sure you
Who's
mean
the third string quarterback in Miami? Because
I'm
I
pretty
don't know.
sure you mean Jalen Waddle, but I'm with
Jalen Waddle. You know how
I got you.
he don't. You know who I mean. His performance going. I think his performance going to be so bad. I can call him by the wrong name. It won't matter. They won't call it much on Sunday. I don't.
Yeah.
Actually, that's on Monday. But who is the third string quarterback in Miami?
Let's see if they have a note under their
It's probably some journeyman that ain't nobody ever heard. Who? I don't even know. Probably somebody like we're gonna be like, that guy's still in the league.
Yeah.
Because I thought I saw Tim Boyle. I thought that's what it said.
I'm actually surprised. I was really expecting them to announce that they had made a move for Jameis Winston this week. When they saw that the Brown, so either I was expecting one of two things to happen this week. I was expecting either a trade was going to be made for Jameis Winston, or that Deshaun Watson was going to go. They were going to announce that Watson was injured because the Browns moved their. They signed a QB off of their practice squad to the active roster, and most NFL teams don't carry three quarterbacks during the season on the active roster unless there's injury concerns or unless there's going to be a personnel change. So, yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that, Mathis King. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to have a pretty good game this week. I mean, he's going to continue to be who he is, but that's where the strength of company man's team pretty much ends. In terms
He
of
always plays
balance.
well against the Chargers, and usually so does his tight end.
I mean, division rivalries. Division rivalries are always a different animal when it comes to fantasy and it comes to just team play. So, but I think in terms of overall balance, that Mathis King has a better team with their matchup this week. So, gonna go with Mathis King. Right? Bench Burrow and Deal versus Muff Divers. So I'll take this one first. Bench Burrow and Deal, good game last week getting their first win, but I think it's going to be a little while until they get their second. Joe Burrow facing the Carolina team that beat up on the Raiders team inexplicably last week. Andy Dalton just continued his streak of he now is 5-0 against the Raiders across the various teams he's faced, but the reality is that was more about the Raiders coming out flat than Carolina being a good team. And Joe Burrow is a much higher caliber of quarterback than they faced last week. But again, I do not think that on balance, their team is going to be able to overcome Muff Divers. I mean, Lamar Jackson is going to be Lamar Jackson, Aaron Jones in a potential revenge game, Marvin Harrison Jr. and CeeDee Lamb. So you got a lot of guys on this team that are coming out looking for a bounce back game this week. And I think that they get it, and that's going to propel Muff Divers to a win. What about you guys?
I agree with you with everything you said.
Yeah. I guess we're unanimous. I don't.
We got to break up this tango. All right. Two boobs, two balls, one goal versus the Big Green. We have our last remaining undefeated team versus our other winless team. Jared, who you like in this
one? You know, I think the Big Green stays winless. I don't have any belief right now. And well, Dak Prescott's gonna get some garbage time points because I have a feeling that the Giants are going to throw the ball to Malik Neighbors left, throw the ball to Malik Neighbors right, throw it to him in the center of the field, sprinkle in a little Devin Singletary because their defense can't stop the run. And I have a feeling they actually could win that game. And Dak just has garbage points. Just like Mr. Waddle, I don't believe Tyreek Hill is going to do much this week. I don't have any faith in the number one draft pick. So I don't have any faith in likely. Tight ends. I don't have faith in tight ends as a whole this season right now. Yeah, so I don't particularly.
And that makes me so sad.
Right now, they're not producing from a fantasy standpoint. Dallas Goedert had a good week last week, but as a whole, tight end has not been a very strong position. But like I said, we've only been through 3 weeks. They might make a comeback here shortly, but I believe that 2 balls, 1 goal goes to 4-0.
Indeed. Dr. Deuce?
Again, I have to agree with him. Ride the hot hand until they play up against somebody. I mean, again, last week they had a close game. This probably won't be that same week.
Yeah, we are in lockstep because until someone actually faces them, that I thought that Kane had a good chance last week, but still I'm not picking against two moves. Well, not at the scoring rate that they're on right now. Okay. All right. Stairway to Evans versus Acorn. Dr. Deuce, who you got?
Well, my heart kind of goes out to Acorn because he's on a 2-week losing streak. And it's really sad that I'm going to say he's going on a 3-week losing streak, but he's going on a 3-week losing streak. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at Jamar Chase probably is going to give him his most points. Walker, I don't think he's 100% yet. So, and Geno Smith is playing well. I don't know what he's going to do against Detroit, but as far as balance goes, I like more what Stairway to Evans has than what I do Acorn.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. Like, who else does he have? I think his other quarterback is injured. Yeah, his other quarterback is Tua. Yeah, I'm also gonna roll with Stairway to Evans. He's looking for a bounce back game after a rough loss last week. We won't say it was against who. But he has a good overall team, and I think that he gets back into the W column this week. All right. And so then our last matchup, the second and third highest scoring teams from week 3 facing off in week 4. Jared, who you like in this
Uh, I am going to go with Super Mario Cristobal because I do not believe your running backs have the week they had last week. Pittsburgh's defense is good. It has to be because their offense don't score no points. So the defense has been holding them down for the last 3 weeks. So I believe Mr. Taylor is kept to a reasonable amount. And as a longtime Tampa Bay fan, we can't stop the pass. We can normally stop the run. So I believe that Mr. Barkley is also held to a more reasonable game. And I also believe that Kyler Murray has problems with that Washington front four because he can't see over them. Their strength is their front four. I believe they can get pressure on him. And that might cause his passing production to fall.
To be truthful, Kyler Murray may not be the quarterback that ends up starting this week, depending on Jordan Love's availability. But that's a fair assessment of Kyler Murray's.
Even if Jordan Love plays, that's a rivalry game. That's a division game.
Oh, you can call it a rivalry game. That's definitely a rivalry game.
I don't know if it's still the rivalry. Favre is gone, Rodgers is gone. I don't know if Jordan Love has started talking the mess that they did. So I'm not quite sure it's quite rivalry yet, but it is definitely a division game.
Let me tell you something. They could have Mr. Magoo versus Timmy from South Park at quarterback in Minnesota and Green Bay, and it will be the deepest rivalry. As a person who was born and raised in Packer country, I can tell you right now, that NFC North, it does not matter who's the quarterback. It does not matter about records. Those rivalries in the NFC North run deep. I would almost say that I know everyone focuses on the rivalries of the NFC East, but that's the only division I would say has a deeper and more ingrained rivalry with its 4 teams in the NFC North. These boys don't like each other. And it's not just on sports. Even the states don't like each other. So and that's coming from a native. But okay, I respect your opinion. Dr. Deuce.
I don't know. Personally, can I go for a tie?
Well, since our league doesn't allow ties due to fractional scoring, no.
I like what your running backs did last week. I like your running backs actually. And even though, yeah, Fitz pretty solid against the run, but they're not solid against it. They still let J.K. Dobbins have a pretty decent day. So I think Taylor has a decent day. Like Mr. Cowan, I'm not sold on tight end, so I'm not even talking about that right now. Josh Jacobs against Minnesota, that could be interesting. It's hard to trust Kyler Murray though because he's so damn little. But if the Washington team that last week comes out, that could be tough for him. But if the Washington 2 weeks ago, Kyler Murray's having the throwing test. So it depends on which Washington comes out. But I guess I have to reluctantly say, as much as I hate to say it, that not Super Mario crystal balling is winning.
Fair enough. I actually
this will either give Jared a tie with us, or we're gonna take a 2-game lead on the overall season. So
there you go. Because yes, I will officially declare that I am not picking against myself this week. I am picking myself to win, just for clarity's sake. I don't mind. One of the reasons why I still might leave Kyler Murray in, even if Jordan Love is good to go, is because I like these games where there ends up being a shootout. Both defenses are suspect, so you never know. They might get out there and have to start throwing the ball around, or both defenses just say, F it, offense, whoever gets the ball last wins, which bodes well from a fantasy standpoint for both teams. So, and I'm okay with that. So, yeah. So, did we miss, Dr. Deuce, keep me honest, did we miss any?
no, you got them all.
All right. All right. Well, then those are our picks for the week. Gentlemen, which games are you looking forward to this weekend?
Chargers and the Chiefs. I gotta see what they like. I want to know that if we're gonna have Justin Herbert or not. And I'm really hoping, beyond hope, that we don't see the Chiefs, the old Chiefs, against us like we normally do with Travis Kelce getting like 200 yards just because it's straight down the middle. So
Indeed, indeed. Jared, how about you? Shout out to our co-host, our fourth co-host popping in to say hello this week.
Actually, I'm gonna pick two because I'm gonna be greedy. I'm gonna
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go with tomorrow's game, the Giants and the Cowboys, just because the Cowboys have looked worse than normal. So I'm trying to see, do they bounce back, or does Malik Neighbors have a field day and lead them to a win? Because here's one that Cowboy fans hate to hear: they are last in the NFC East right now.
Tomorrow is the definition of a must-win game for the Cowboys. Like, I know it's early in the season, but if there's a team that has a must-win game in week 4, it is the Cowboys. So I do think
there's that one. And then there's also Arizona and Washington, because I'll be there. You know, anytime you go to a game in person, it's just a different feel. Especially when it's not your team, so you just there to take in the game.
Yeah. I tell you this, man. Last season, I was lucky enough to get a late minute invite from Jared to go to the Bucks Texans game, and we had a good time. We had a really good time. It ended up being not a good ending for the Bucks, but we really enjoyed the game and the atmosphere. And we saw Baker and CJ Stroud both just have phenomenal games from a fantasy standpoint. The game I'm looking forward to this weekend, since Jared already set the precedent, so Dr. Deuce, you can come back and pick another game up if you like, is I'm looking forward to the Eagles-Bucks game. Just because I think those are two of the stronger teams in the NFC. I expect both of those teams to make the playoffs, both of them to potentially win their divisions going into this year. So it's good. I like watching when good football teams play each other. It's a lot better than when sucky teams play each other. And then the other game I'm looking forward to is Vikings Green Bay. Everyone knows I'm a Raiders fan, but I will always have love for the Packers. I was born in Wisconsin. They were the first team I cheered for before I officially joined the Raider Nation. So always look forward to seeing those rivalry games within those NFC North games. Dr. Deuce, did you want to pick a second game?
yeah, so that I'm not the oddball out, I'll pick a second game. Bills Ravens. Do the Ravens right the ship and go 2-2 against the Bills at home?
I don't know, but it'll be a fun Sunday night game to watch.
Man, I completely forgot that was a matchup. So I just want to throw this out there too, right? Josh Allen has been the paper best QB, and he's been the best fantasy QB the last couple of years. It has not translated into MVPs or Super Bowl appearances yet. Is this the year? I'm not gonna. We got plenty of games left for them to get there at the end, but that's been the question hanging over Josh Allen's head now for two. I won't say three. I'll say two. This will be year three. Is this Josh Allen's year to either be in the MVP hunt at the end of the season or to take his team deep into the playoffs and potentially to a Super Bowl? So this is going to be a good barometer for them this weekend against the Ravens at home. So that's going to be a great Sunday night game. You are definitely correct on that. Well, that's all we have for this week. I can say this sincerely to both of you gentlemen because there are no conflicts of interest. I wish the best of luck to both your NFL teams and your fantasy teams this weekend. Everybody else out there, I'll hope that your players stay off the injured reserve list and that all your players ball out of control for you this weekend. So we'll see you next week.